Hey guys, welcome back here to the channel where I talk about all things life as a digital nomad and traveling abroad as an expat. And in today's video, I really want to talk to you a little bit about my experience working in the corporate world, how uncomfortable it made me feel working in that kind of space, and the benefits I've felt ever since really I've set up as a digital nomad and a freelancer. And I've been self-employed for the last sort of 4 or 5 years. So guys, yeah, just to give you a bit of background, most of my career, most of my professional experience was in the sales environment. So yeah, I graduated from university with a sports science degree, never actually did anything with that degree, and spent the first few years really just working in event management, organizing events in the office. But as I say, later on in my career, kind of went more into selling and to sales, and I was mainly selling things like exhibitions and events, technology, other such services like this. But mainly it was predominantly events and exhibitions. And I'll be really honest with you guys. The truth of it is that, bar 1 or 2 jobs, most of the time I felt like a complete fish out of water. Working in these corporate roles, and I want to talk to you a little bit today about why I felt that, and maybe it will resonate with quite a few of you. I would have thought that you might, at this current moment in time, you might feel a bit stuck or trapped in your job. Maybe you also realize deep down that the corporate life just isn't for you. That it certainly didn't feel like it was for me. I always felt very, I don't know how to explain it. I was always very quiet at work. I just kept my head down. With regards to the selling and the sales jobs, I was always very, very good at that. I was always good on the phone. I was always able to make the sales. But what I really desperately struggled with was the meetings and just the office politics, guys. Let's be honest. Just kind of playing the game, brown nosing the managers, saying the right things at the right time, playing the game. That's what some people call it, playing the game. I just never could do that, guys. I could never really put a mask on it, and to be honest, that's how I feel a lot of people acted in my experience in the corporate world. They put this mask on, and to a degree we all do that. I'm not going to say I didn't. I definitely did. I was always trying to act more professional than I naturally am. But the truth of it is, guys, is that that's how it was for me. I really didn't feel like I was actually sort of being my true self. I wasn't being authentic. For me, these jobs, a lot of the time, it was just a means to an end, just a way to pay the bills. But I, as I say, I desperately found it difficult to get on with the other people. And so most of the time I would just kind of keep my head down. I'd make the calls. Most of the time I would hit my targets, and so the managers were always quite happy with me, I think, because they knew that I would, ultimately they probably didn't want to upset me too much, because, I was hitting my targets. Essentially, I was bringing in money for the company, and as long as you're doing that, everything's sweet. But, I think there was at one point, I think, in my sort of mid to late 20s, when I was starting to think to myself, okay, maybe I could look at kind of climbing the corporate ladder, as it were, and moving more into those management positions. But that was when I really kind of realized that, yeah, in actual fact, guys, it's got nothing often to do with your ability or talent in the job, but it's got everything to do with your ability to, brown nose the boss, say the right things at the right time, be a little bit big-headed, and don't really mind what you say. Attend all the work, at times attend the work events and things like that. And to be honest, guys, I never really ever found it comfortable doing any of that. I just wanted to go to work. I'd get in at 9. I'd clock out at 5, and that was me. That was me, basically. And I don't know if maybe that isn't the right way. Maybe you do need to get in early and stay late. But in my experience, having worked in the corporate world, you don't really get any thanks for that. The more you do that, the more that's just expected of you. That's what you'll do, and the employers will just take advantage of you. In the end, I kind of thought to myself, if I keep changing the job, maybe it's the company, but it never really was. It was always just the job. And I do wonder, looking back now, is it just a reflection of most jobs in the corporate world? I'm tending to think it is. I'm not saying there aren't any good companies out there. Of course there must be, but in my experience, guys, they're pretty few and far between. I'd love to know what you think in the comments section. Do let me know. What I also wanted to mention was just the types of characters that I'd also meet in these sales positions and in these teams. So, I'm someone, guys, who I would like to sort of think of myself as quite a balanced and level-headed guy, someone who's quite down to earth. I just ended up in sales because I'm quite good at talking, and I like talking to people, right? So I kind of fell into these sales jobs. But what I quickly realised after sort of working a few years in sales, that it does, to be fair, it does attract quite a cocky, egotistical person, bordering on arrogant, and we all know what that stereotypical salesman is like. And I can confirm, having worked in a few of these roles, a lot of the teams, they do carry these sort of people. And I worked with a lot of people really that were not actually really very good at sales. They were in these roles just quite frankly because they were good bullshitters and they could just talk, and they had the gift of the gab. But actually when it came down to the sales, a lot of them weren't really actually any good, to be quite honest with you. They just got into these roles because they could talk. And that made, to be honest with you guys, that made the experience even more upsetting and distressing for me, because sales is a pressurizing job anyway. It is difficult making these calls, experiencing the rejection. But as I say, I was always I was always pretty good at that. But it's just so hard when you're surrounded by arrogant people all the time that, I saw many occasions toxic behaviour in those teams where, people would be passive aggressive to me. You think you're on good terms with someone, but then they wouldn't talk to you for a while, or just little put me downs as well, like, trying to get other people to laugh in the office. And it really made me feel like shit, to be honest. There was a few times where I even had to kind of have a chat with the perpetrators and just actually lay it out to them, because I wouldn't take it in the end, but for many years I did just keep my head down, and just tolerate the abuse. But that leads me on to really about talking about how I was actually able to escape the corporate world. And it all basically came around the time of the pandemic. I went traveling. That didn't last because COVID hit, so I came back to the UK unemployed, and it was actually that kind of also really gave me the kick up the backside, really, to finally leave sales and get a job in another field. And for me it was teaching English, and then ultimately setting up my own business, which I work on now, which is teaching business English to software engineers. I've been doing that for the last 4 years. Absolutely have loved it, guys. I've been able to finally work for myself and really kind of do the job that I should have always done, really. It was just a shame that I lasted as long as I did in the corporate world. But looking back now in hindsight, maybe it did teach me some good lessons and some good life skills. I'm not saying all of the sales was bad. I think that's definitely a skill that has helped me for sure in actually developing my own business. Incidentally, I'll be doing a video soon on that, and why I think sales is so important. But like I just said, if you think that working for yourself and being self-employed would give you that satisfaction, I really encourage you to take the risk, because it's provided me with so much more happiness, a much greater work-life balance. I don't have those annoying narcissistic employees belittling me, people that I didn't really want to work with at all. But you know, we don't really have any choice in the matter, do we, guys? You know, you go to work, you have to work with these people, but you know, for me, I was able to escape that in the end, and for me, I'm absolutely desperate. I'll do whatever it takes now, guys, to avoid ever going back into the corporate world again, because yeah, it was a punishing 15 years or whatever it was. I left uni at 22, set up my business when I was 35. So yeah, those 13 years in business, well, it was a long 13 years, guys. I'm not gonna lie, at all. But my call to action, my final thing that I want to say, guys, is it is possible to escape the rat race. Just have belief in yourself, develop a really good idea and a niche, and you can do it. And the fact of the matter is, this is what people want to be doing now, isn't it? You know, I think as we move into the future of work, we're going to see more and more of entrepreneurial ship, people setting up their own business, online businesses for sure, because in my opinion, and do let me know as well in the comments, people just don't want to be working for companies anymore. They don't want to be working with colleagues that don't respect them, that don't really care for them in any way. And if I'm honest, I didn't really care for them either, you know. In the whole I don't think the system works anymore. But of course, you know, this is the model that we've still got for the time being, but it doesn't fit. In my opinion, it won't last for too much longer, because people, in my opinion, are so disenfranchised and so fed up with the current system that, you know, people are longing for this change. And I think it's coming, guys. I think it's coming. But at the end of the day, we have to take action, and we have to create our own destiny. So, you know, take action and take the steps forward that you need to. And I hope you enjoyed this video today. It was it's just off the cuff. It's a video that I've been thinking of doing for a few days. So, you know, I hope that spoke to a few of you. If you do like this content, do subscribe to the channel. I'm talking about all things life as a digital nomad, you know, working, setting up an online business, also working abroad and traveling as well. And thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.